Yes, it is something of an irony that I spent many years writing television ads for beer and chocolates, and now primarily I spend my time looking for people who've had too many beers and eaten too much chocolate. In a way, perhaps I've created my own market. So let's talk a little bit about social media. I'd like to start with a story in the UK. The Natural Environment Research Council were launching a new boat, or should I say a new ship. $500 million flagship, most advanced research ship in the world. They thought it would be a good idea to go to social media and ask people to suggest names for the ship. Now, I would have imagined that people would suggest things like the Sir David Attenborough or the James Watson or the Charles Darwin. What came back was this. The Royal Research Ship Boaty McBoatface was the number one suggestion, closely followed by the Royal Research Ship Big Metal Floaty Thingy Thing. And they actually got themselves into a bit of a dilemma because this was a very online open poll, people were demanding that the ship, because after all it was the biggest boat. I think they wound up compromising by having one of the droid vessels. So on that boat that's now been launched, it's, one of the vessels, smaller vessels, is called Boaty McBoatface. But it's an example of social media and the fact that social media is a completely unregulated, in fact, a fiercely unregulated place. So the question we should ask is, if social media is a totally unregulated place, it's an interesting contrast with clinical trials, which are very tightly regulated because they have to be. And you ask the question, are the two things compatible? And can they actually complement each other? The answer is yes, but with very many caveats, as you could imagine. We use it. We spent approximately, it's over $400,000 now on Facebook. It's not what I expected to be spending my money on, looking for elderly people in the beginning, but because we've also advertised on television, radio, we've done flyers, we've done all sorts of things, but as it turns out, Facebook is the most cost-effective way to reach out to patients. I'll just tell you why. Our target audience is as follows. Our target audience is female, 45 plus, influential. We chose this demographic because they're influential in family medical decisions. They're the ones that control the medicine cabinet in the family. They're the ones that will tell their husband to bloody well go and see the specialist and stop complaining about your gout or your arthritis. And they're the ones that actively network with friends and tell their friends about things that they may have heard of. So they're to us were the most valuable people to reach out to. And then in addition to that, lower socioeconomic groups, and I'll tell you why. Women 45 plus and lower socioeconomic groups, 16.6% are smokers, which is 18% more likely than the general population. 67.3% have shopped at a chemist in the last 4 weeks, which is 38% more likely than the average population. 66% are overweight or obese, which is 45% more likely than the average population. So what you'll find is for us, that's if you look at our database now, the average age of the database is 53 and they're predominantly women, but for every woman you capture in that range, you're capturing a family, you're capturing somebody who has children, and you're also capturing somebody who has ageing parents. So, and of course they're more likely to have know people with the same lifestyle and health profiles. So where do you reach them? Okay, this is 2013, so it's getting a little old, but the trends are very, very real. This is Roy Morgan research. Just moving across from left to right, FTA TV stands for free-to-air television. You can see that's gone 97%, 94%, but that's still very high. STV, satellite TV, you can see that's going up. Cinema's about the same. Radio, surprisingly enough, is going up. Press, as you'd expect, is going down. Magazines is going down. Outdoor is going up. I can only suggest that means people are being more mobile these days. Interestingly enough, mail that junk mail that you get in your letterbox, to 45-year-old women in lower socio-economic groups, that still works. Harvey Norman still putting those things out, and it's a very expensive exercise, and they're doing it for a reason, and the reason is, at least to this demographic, it works. Search is Google, basically. That's search engine optimization and also Google Ads and so forth. You can see the rapid rise there. Display, that's the display ads that take over the Sydney Morning Herald, annoyingly. Then online video, that's the ads that pop up before you play a video, and social media, which is predominantly Facebook. You can see the dramatic increases in that. More recently, that's gone even further. It has got to the stage now. I mean, that's the interesting thing. When I started this, the notion of using social media to reach older people, I didn't think it was going to be as effective as it was. But it's got to the stage now where a colleague of mine is using Facebook to advertise for retirement villages, and that's the most cost-effective medium there. So Facebook now is very much something that is used by older people, and when you have older people, particularly in lower socio-economic groups, you have people who are more likely to have chronic conditions. So that's the way we roll on that. But I'll have to make this statement, though, is that reach doesn't translate into conversion. And just because you reach somebody doesn't necessarily mean they're going to actually do what you want them to do. There's still a lot of work to be done just after reaching them. The thing about social media, it's not a set and forget medium. Once you put something out there, it's out there 24/7. And like Boaty McBoatface, all sorts of unexpected things can happen. People can make silly, sometimes obscene and often slanderous comments. And I'll give an example. Funny, this top one, we don't need more drugs. God provides all we need according to his riches through Jesus Christ. These are all the comments that we've had in social media. You'd be surprised at the number of people out there who think clinical trials is the devil's work, literally. Do people believe this rubbish? Cancer is a conspiracy between governments and big pharma companies to make money. I did a clinical trial and it almost killed me, and of course we all know that walnuts cure prostate cancer. So you put something out there on social media and this is all the stuff that's going to come back at you if you're not careful and don't manage it properly. I just put this up quickly. Does my Abyssinian qualify? I didn't know what I said. He has severe asthma. I had to look it up. Anyway, I looked it up and found it was a cat, and I didn't respond to it. This is a while ago. But she persisted. She still haven't answered me. So I eventually, hello, Carol, sorry if we misunderstood your Abyssinian question, but as far as we're aware, an Abyssinian is a breed of cat, and we don't do studies. We only do studies for people. All the best. Yes, he is a cat, and he has chronic asthma. This is social media. Yeah. So, the other thing about social media is it does put you alongside some dodgy company. It is the preferred medium for quacks, frauds and liars. If you want essential oils to protect you from the next outbreak of Ebola, you know where to go. You go online, you find that. So this is, if you put a clinical trial out there, this is what you're sitting alongside. So it's worth remembering that. So you need to differentiate yourself in a way that makes you look thoroughly professional. But even that is increasingly more difficult. It is relatively easy for anybody to actually make themselves look professional online. It's one of those things, in the old days, somebody would have a big shop and it would be self-evident that it was a large, reputable organisation. Online, somebody can make themselves easily look like somebody that they're not, or somebody that's much bigger than what they are, and it's difficult to tell the difference. The other thing, though, you need to answer all the online comments, so you need to constantly monitor it. And ideally, you need to be a well-known and trusted brand. And that's the interesting thing. I mean, it's one of those things that a lot of pharmaceutical companies aren't sort of particularly happy to put their name against clinical trials because they want to be associated with the stuff that works, not the stuff that's yet to be proven. So it's an interesting area to go because how do you make yourself look any different from a brand if you can't sort of put, say, Johnson & Johnson there or something like that? How do you make yourself look any different from somebody that's in Ethiopia or something like that? So it's a difficult environment to get to navigate around. And I say, but that's still not enough after all that. And when you think about these comments, they can be very compromising. I mean, if somebody says, I did this clinical trial and it almost killed me, I mean, other people participating in that clinical trial might be reading that. Or alternatively, they can skew the results of other potentially people participating in a clinical trial. Somebody doing a clinical trial might say, this has actually cured me, and that actually might affect somebody else who's actually doing the study. So these open forums are very sort of can be very unhelpful things. So the way we handle that is that we sort of act as a firewall between the study, the sponsor, and the site. We never mention specific studies or a single condition in social media. Unhelpful comments, so therefore unhelpful comments can't be attributed to any study, any clinic or any sponsor. So if somebody says, I did a study or I did some sort of study and it almost killed me, there is no direct link that anybody can make with any particular study. If somebody wants to say something abusive, they're abusing Neoclinical. They're not abusing any sponsor or any hospital or any site. So we're very careful not to expose anybody conducting the clinical trial to the chaos, let's say, of social media. This has already been asked a couple of times today. Online privacy and policies are a big issue. Before we started, we spent, as you do, $10,000 with lawyers making sure that our privacy policies were right. The other thing, though, is about where is your data stored. I don't think a lot of people know that if your data is stored in the United States, your privacy doesn't come under Australian privacy law. And the horrible thing is your privacy doesn't come under American privacy law either, because only American citizens can be protected by American privacy law. So if you think about that, if your server is backed up in the States, and you might not know because you might be using Amazon or Google, and there might be a backup in the States somewhere, that means all your patients' data is sitting on a server in the States and isn't protected by Australia's privacy laws or America's privacy laws. And then the other part about that too is when you sign that little thing off and it says in the small print, Amazon can use this and all its affiliates. You imagine how many affiliates Amazon has got. And it's not protected by the privacy laws because it's on a server in the States. So there's a whole lot of little things that can trip you up where privacy is concerned. As for us, our main service in Sydney, that's backed up in Melbourne, and one in Melbourne's backed up in Canberra. So, then there's other things. Cookies, lookalike audiences and remarketing. I'll tell you a story. A colleague of mine, everyone heard of this thing called geofencing, geo-targeting? You're able to actually set something up and discover the ID of every device within a particular zone. So a friend of mine did this on Budget Day in Canberra, and he's now got the ID of every mobile device within a 20-kilometre range of Parliament House on Budget Day. So he's got the ID, doesn't know who, but he has got the Prime Minister's phone, the Treasurer's phone, he's got everybody's phone ID. You can't sort of put the name to the device, but he knows in there he's got that device. And that's what people are doing these days. So the privacy issues are getting more and more complex. So it's another thing about social media and getting online that you have to be aware of. So just in summary, social media is an increasingly powerful tool to reach patients, but it has a lot of risks. It's an open channel for anyone to say anything they want to. That can compromise studies and even reputations. It's the favoured medium of quacks and miracle cures, and it's an ever-changing environment in terms of privacy, security and data storage. Is it worth it? Yes, it is, but it's a lot more complicated than you might think. Here's a bit of an ad here at the end, but we provide a firewall between social media and the sponsor, clinic and study. We now have Australia's largest database of patients who A, have at least one chronic condition and B, have already said they want to participate in the clinical study. We use experienced registered nurses and sophisticated software to pre-screen all those patients, and we can help you.